I've got 2,158 hours of runtime on this. Hey guys, Brad here, and today we're going to be talking about a Honda generator that I love. I'm going to tell you what I love about it, what you need to absolutely know before you run this generator, some tips and tricks, some things that cost me a lot of money, and just an all-round sort of overlook of how this generator runs and what you get when you buy it. So here it is in front of us here. It's the Honda EU7000 IS. This is a fuel injected generator. It weighs 263 pounds. Okay, it's a big heavy generator, so it's not something you're going to be pulling out of your truck all the time. It's fuel injected, and the decibel level at about a quarter load is around 52 to 54 decibels. So I've done a review on this before. We'll leave a link to that down below. And if we have any links for like Amazon or whatever, we'll leave a link down below for that as well. Make sure you subscribe and hit that notify bell. And if you have any comments, please leave them down below and give us a like as well, because it really helps out the channel. So let's start talking about what this generator has. And then I'm going to get into some serious mistakes that I made with it that cost me. One mistake was 400 bucks. So, these are some things you really need to know. So first off, fuel injected, so no carburetor, all right? Very easy to turn on. So to turn this on, all we have to do is turn the key and press the button. And I'll just turn it on quickly. We are indoors here. So that's how you turn the unit on. Very easy. Now I'm going to show you some other features here, okay? On the screen, you can see that I've got 2,158 hours of runtime on this. So I know what I'm talking about when, when we're talking about this generator. This thing has been under serious load. Now on the top, we have some alarms. So this is the output indicator alarm. It's on green when everything is running. There's an overload alarm and an oil alarm. So when you overload this, it's going to make a buzzing noise, and this will light up orange. I've never had my oil alert arm go off because I'm always making sure that I've got oil, and that's a really important thing that no one ever tells you, is what oil to put in the generator. You want to make sure if you're running this in the winter time, you have a really good winter oil in here, because it makes all the difference in how this thing runs. If you don't have a good oil in this, when you go to start it up, it won't start. If you've got a really nice thin oil in here, it starts up every single time, no problem. So that's one tip. Now on the front, make sure every time you turn this unit on, these are your main control switches, okay? And they control these sections. So this switch controls this plug, and this switch here controls all three plugs here. Make sure these are off when you turn this on. That way it's not just a spike in power. You got to let this thing warm up just for a second or two. Then you can turn these on, and if you've already got plugs in here, then it'll ramp up. So that's key. And then also, before you turn the unit off, make sure you click both of these off before you turn the unit off. All right, so very important. It will just help prolong the overall life of your generator, and that's what you want to do, because this unit is about $5,000 Canadian, and you just don't want to be fixing it all the time. So just little things to kind of, rules of operating, I guess you could call it. So we've got little fuses here, a 30, a 20, and a 20, and they each correspond to these plugs. I really like how they've sort of highlighted that with some lines, so you know which is for what. We've got two 20 amp plugs, a 30 amp. I rarely use this. I have an adapter, just turns it into 15 amps, and then I run a single plug off of it. But this would be for like your motorhome or a house hookup. And same with this guy right here, your 12240. I use this one all the time. I have a splitter that splits into 4 15 amp plugs. So this one's really, really great. And down here is the main selector switch. I always keep it on the right because that is the 12240, and that's for this right here. Okay, so this has a mode on it called Eco Throttle, and that's this switch right here. Now Eco Throttle runs, when you have it on, it's running the motor at a lower RPM, and it's really, really nice if you're not needing a lot of energy, right? Let's say you're just charging your cell phone, which you can do on this. You just leave it on eco mode, and then if you're maybe running a skill saw, circular saw, drills, whatever on cords, you'd put it on the eco mode because you don't need it running at full RPM all the time. If you're running something like a large space heater, or I don't know, or if you've got like a whole crew running, you want to put it off of eco mode and just onto regular running. And this will be running, you know, full bore, and there won't be any ups and downs. The energy is there when you need it, and that's really, really important. Another thing to point out with this generator is it's very, very clean energy. And when I say that, I don't mean clean as in it's like a renewable resource, it's wind power, whatever, because it is gasoline. When I say clean, I mean the sine wave of energy that is put out by this unit is clean. So if you have a non-inverter generator, you get something that's called dirty power. So you do not want to charge your drill batteries, like any of the like DeWalt, Milwaukee, Bosch, any of those types of batteries. You don't want to charge them on a generator that's not an inverter. That's something that's really, really important to know, because if you're doing that, they damage the batteries. It's called dirty power. This is clean power. It's got a very, very solid sine wave, right? The power is very, very straight. So you're not getting lots of spikes in power. And that allows us to charge things like sensitive tools like laptops, cell phones, battery chargers, all your DeWalt, all your Milwaukee, all that type of stuff. So that's another really important thing to know. What do you need your generator for? So inverters are great for homes. This thing will power your standard, 1,500, 2,000 square foot home. Or a motor home or anything like that. It's a great backup generator to have. The fuel that it takes is premium. Don't skimp out and put regular. You want to make sure that this thing's running on premium fuel, and it just helps prolong the life of everything on it. The gas tank is on the top, and it has a fuel gauge right up here, which tells you how much fuel you have. And to put the fuel in, very easily, you just open this up. And I've got a little bit too much fuel in here, as you can see. Usually it's got to be just down below that ring, that red ring down there. So somebody put too much fuel in here. Now I want to talk about the fuel itself, all right? When you're fueling this, I've found over the 2,000 hours that I've put into this unit, it takes a long time to take a jerry can and just kind of hold it here. So get yourself a funnel like this, all right? A nice big funnel, and you just stick it in the unit. You'll get to know how much gas this takes, and you can just slosh it all in there real fast, and you don't have to stand here for like 5 minutes trying to fill up the unit. Make sure you turn the unit off because it is gasoline, it's not diesel. So if you're running this and you're filling it, you might explode, okay, because of the gas vapors. So something to really think about. Even though everything's sort of, all the combustion is inside, you just don't want to have any sparks happening. Let's say your unit's failing or you've got a heavy load. You just don't know. So make sure you turn it off when you're filling this. Another thing to know is don't run this indoors. This is a generator. It produces carbon monoxide. So very, very important to keep this outdoors, or if you are running it indoors, like in a garage or something like that, make sure you've got a proper venting for your exhaust and the heat. So I'm not gonna really, push running this indoors because it is dangerous. So let's take another look at some more features on here. This has a really great handle system on it, okay, because it is super heavy. So these click up and you can just wheel this around, no problem. And because I've got this up, I'm gonna show you on the side here. I'm gonna wheel this around like that. So on both sides, there's some doors. On this side, you just turn with a screwdriver or a knife. This is where our spark plugs are and our air filter. And that's kind of all you really need to know on this side for maintenance. I typically take this into Honda to get maintained just because of the warranty, but very, very easy. It's waterproof. It's got this really nice rubber gasket on the door. And as you can see, 2,000 hours, and this thing is nice and sparkly clean inside. So it's not pulling in a lot of junk. Okay, we'll close that up. And I'll take you around to the other side. This side here is, I think, more important than the other side. This is where your oil is, right here. So you got a dipstick. This is where you fill your oil. And if you need to drain your oil to change it, right down here is your plug. And on the bottom of this unit is a cap that you can pull out. And so all the oil will drain into a pan that you would put underneath your generator. And then you can just close it all up and then refill the unit. Now, this is electric start, but if you kill your battery, and I'll tell you how you do that, because I've done it twice. If you kill your battery, there's a pull start right here, okay? And if you've got the wrong oil in this unit, and this is how I learned, I had summer oil in here, and it was minus 30 in, the wintertime, and I could not even pull start this unit because the oil was just too thick. So make sure you got the right oil. So pull start is great if you've killed your battery. And the way you kill your battery, they don't tell you this, and you wouldn't necessarily think it, but if you, at the end of the day, leave this key here and you've turned the unit off, and this has happened to me twice, this little screen is enough to kill the battery overnight. And you come in the morning, battery's dead, there's no way to get it going. If you've got the wrong oil, then you're totally hooped. So you have to make sure you turn that off as well. Now the battery itself is in the front, right here. I'm just gonna undo this. Okay. So just a little battery. You see these on ATVs all the time. Very, very easy to find. So not a big deal. I keep an extra one in my shop just in case this situation happens again. We've also got some fuses up here. Okay. So that's pretty important to know. Don't leave that on if you're not running the unit. You got to turn it off. Through here, there's a selector switch, which will give us some different options. Okay, so that's my run time, 2,158 hours. And you can scroll through, you got your RPMs, and then it's also got your battery, 12.7 volts. So we're running pretty good, all right? This generator is by far, I think, the best generator out there. I've got another generator. It's a 3500 Champion. I've used it a couple times and now I can't get it started. So something to think about. Now, here's something that is super important that a lot of guys do, and I think you really, really need to know it. This fuel tank here holds about 20 hours to 25 hours of run time on eco throttle. All right. I've easily had this thing up to 25 hours of eco throttle just running, like, I think we were running some heat tape to keep some pipes warm overnight, and we had to have power, so we were just running this thing. What I wanted to do though is I hooked up an auxiliary tank. So right here, I've got an auxiliary tank, and this is a priming line. Okay, you prime the line with this, and then this cap is a Honda cap that you can buy from them, and it screws onto here. And the idea is that you've now doubled your reservoir, which is great. However, the way I had this set up before was I had my generator in a trailer, and I had the exhaust going out the floor. It was all piped, hard piped in, so there was no exhaust in the trailer itself. I also had a pipe coming off the back heat duct here so that I wasn't overheating the trailer. It worked really, really well, okay? And I also had intakes on the sides for fresh air. I didn't want to store the auxiliary fuel tank inside the trailer because you do have to leave the little vent on top of these open, and I was just a little nervous about the vapors coming out and potentially having a fire hazard. So picture this, it's minus 25. I've got this outside, okay, my fuel tank, and the hose is coming into the trailer and going into the generator. Something happened where, and this happened multiple times, the hose itself got a little bit of crystallization in it, and these ports are extremely tiny, all right? You can see how small the fuel ports are, and it froze up on the outside. So what happened is, because there's suction in here, this is actually vented, this cap, it's vented. So because the fuel, it's fuel injected, it's sucking the fuel from in here, and if you've got this cap installed on here, it's sucking the fuel, it's pulling it through the line. But because the line was frozen, this entire lid cavitated. And the very first night, we weren't running it very, very high, so it just sort of dented this down like a 1/4 inch, just kind of sucked the lid down. The next night, we were running at higher RPMs. I put in some winter additives into the fuel so it wouldn't freeze. I thought I was totally set. I primed it. It was running when I left. I came back in the morning. The fuel tank was empty. The auxiliary tank was full. And this thing cavitated so bad, it was just completely just sucked right down. And that was it. It was done. So I had to take this generator back to Honda, and it's not light. You got to have a couple guys or something big, and like a winch, or I don't know. We used just a couple of guys, and we just hoisted it in the back of my truck. And they replaced the gas can on here. It cost me over $400 to do it. And as well as I needed a new battery because the thing was dead. So you really, really got to be careful and try it out a couple times if you're going to use an auxiliary tank. I'm not sold on it. I'm super nervous to try it out again just because that happened. I do know it works. I've seen it in other videos. I know I have the right setup. I talked to Honda about it. It's all, they're all like, yeah, it's great. Looks good. I know right now this is backwards, just if anyone's wondering. This is, the flow is this way. I just put it on here just to show, but this should be the other way. But yeah, just keep that in mind if you are going to run an auxiliary fuel tank. If it's super cold out, you might just want to make that extra trip back, or have this tank in a heated space but ventilated, because this just doesn't work. All right, very, very important, and it cost me a lot of money. So those are some tips and tricks, guys, that I've learned from my 2,000 plus hours of running this generator. I hope you've learned something from my mistakes, and I highly recommend the generator. It will easily run a home, especially if your home is high efficient and you've got LED lights and a good fridge, things like that. If your home is older, obviously, you know, the older washer dryers, the older fridges, the old halogen lights, that's going to draw a lot more power. This is a 7,000 watt inverter, so, you know, just do some calculations. There's lots of calculators online to figure out your overall electrical consumption. So there you go. Hope you liked the video. Please subscribe, leave a comment down below, give me a thumbs up because it helps us out. And until next time, keep on crushing it. We'll catch you later.